Glasses on or glasses off?
I guess that's not technical.
That's up to you. That's up to you.
Okay.
That's up to you.
I'm a
we
glasses
trying to
on,
hide.
but I'm like all the smoke, man.
We trying to
I got
hide
the
the
glasses on inside.
The eyes
my
are a
thoughts
window
and
to the soul. What you trying to hide?
The big news in the soccer world at the moment is Real Madrid and the dressing room drama. Federico Valverde and Aurelian Chouameni argued at training on Wednesday. Valverde refused to shake his hand and then fouled him on Thursday, and it escalated in the dressing room. Valverde, the captain for Real Madrid, went to the hospital with a traumatic brain injury, and the club held a crisis meeting. Both were fined $500,000 each. Real Madrid is currently having a very rare trophyless season. A 33 million signature petition exists to sell the club's star boy, Kylian Mbappe, and the dressing room at the moment is a powder keg. So this kind of leads to the question, what was the worst locker room moment you've ever been a part of? Whether it's a fight, a blow up, or a coach losing it. Like, does this kind of thing actually ever help a team? Does it clear the air, destroy the trust? Let's get those thoughts out there.
Oh boy. You know what? I don't know if any of my locker room moments are suitable for this podcast, but I'm gonna let somebody else go first.
Oh no, bro! I'm clamming up on this one. I plead the fifth. I think. Listen, I think I have a lot of locker room stories, but this thing's a PG rated show, easy, and so I think I'm gonna have to keep a lot of those to myself. Um, but I do think that a little turmoil in the locker room can be good. You keep everybody on your toes, but it just can't be too much because then it can be distracting. Um, I like people that are fired up, man. So I prefer people that are fired up over people that are that just kind of all come in there and just sit around and everything is good. So I like a little bit of fired up. I'm all right with it.
I believe I brought a quote to the team this week that said pressure is a privilege, and that came from Liverpool's captain Virgil van Dijk talking about how high stakes, high pressure to face it, right? So is this too much pressure for a team that is expected to win? When does pressure, maybe within a company, when does that start to turn toxic? When do the tides change from okay, we got to perform to okay, we're losing the locker room here.
Ah, that's good. It's like it's almost like the pressure of the three-peat. Maybe I got to go back to my boy Goat James. You know what I'm saying? The, there's a lot of pressure on him to three-peat. And he would have been the first one to ever do it. I don't think he crumbled under pressure. But some of his teammates may let him down, and at some point, yeah, there is definitely a turning point where it can have adverse effects. Now, when it comes to Mbappe and the powder room, I'm not too in tune with the soccer world, but I know my boy Rooster is.
I used to be, man. I used to be. Not as much anymore. All I know is whatever conversation we have, it's going to end at LeBron and Jordan. That's all I know. It will redirect to there.
That's honestly all this podcast is. It's literally just it's literally just going to be about MJ and LeBron because that's the only thing that's the only sports things that you guys know.
I've got to, I got the pressure is. I don't know. Did we lose JC?
Yeah, I think his connection failed. We'll keep talking.
There was too much pressure. There was too much pressure on him.
Too much.
He folded under the soccer question, and some people fold under the pressure. I have no idea about soccer, but I'm still here.
We're still there, John. You're here.
JC just pulled the old. Oh, I ain't got signal, and then he hung up.
Well, maybe the conversation is less about soccer, more about dressing room drama. So, like for instance, so one of my stories I wanted to share. We had this lineman in college who unfortunately was my roommate my freshman year. He was about 6'7", 300 pounds, and I feel like if you're that size,
oh wow,
you're you're not a bully, right? Like your size speaks for itself. This guy was a bully. He fought our kicker during practice. A lineman, an
Unbelievable.
offensive lineman, fighting a kicker at practice. To me, that
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense, right? That would be like me fighting cheese, you know?
Hey, cheese is scrappy, bro. Ask him how many pull-ups he can do at one time. How many muscles on one occasion?
Listen, dog. Listen, CrossFit prepares you for anything.
Anything body weight, like he's not gonna rack 225 or anything like that. But cheese is gonna do 12 muscle ups in a row, and he won't breathe hard. He'll do that. That'll happen.
Impeccable stamina.
Unbelievable stamina. Hard worker. Loves to
Yeah.
go.
That's a hustle award.
Well, hey, speaking of hustle, because last night, Cheese, your boy King James failed to win against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the second round of the NBA playoffs. But as a fair weather fan, as I am, it seems like just like soccer, a lot of the NBA is currently doing this. Right, they're going to be I'm just going to show flopping here, but
Yeah.
so the Celtics blew a 3-1 lead to the 76ers. Jaylen Brown went on Twitch and said flopping has ruined the game, and he called out Joel Embiid directly, mano a mano. The NBA fined Jaylen Brown $50,000 for publicly criticizing officiating. Where does this flopping? Where does it end? How does it end? I mean, to me, as an Oklahoma City Thunder fan.
Oh, yes. You don't want it to end because your boy SGA is.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
No,
Hold on. You're awfully bold to bring that up with SGA.
No,
Yeah.
but listen, because here's my take on this. I think the flopping is too much. However, as a fan, what am I supposed to do? Do I boycott the team? Or are they literally in the midst of a playoff run and trying to win at any costs, and they're playing within the game? If the refs are going to call it, I would play within the game. So, I mean, what's your take?
Yeah. If the refs are going to call it, why not take advantage of it?
I got a take. There's not enough flopping. That's my take.
Okay.
And here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. If I find out, if I'm playing against Cheese or we're doing whatever, and I find out he's got a bum right ankle, I'm putting pressure on that right ankle. I'm making him push off to his right because I know he's got a bum right ankle. If I know that I can get away with something to give me an advantage, and if I flop and I put the pressure on that ref in a playoff moment he's going to swallow that whistle. Or he's not. And I'm going to put the pressure on him. Okay, so for me, if I gain a competitive advantage, by faking a little bit, I'm all right with it. So my hot take is there's not enough flopping. We should keep flopping.
But here's the thing: is flopping part of the game to try to bait the ref into calling the game a certain way, or is it?
I think so.
Is it within the game, or is it just flat out cheating?
It's definitely within the game, and I think it happens in every sport.
It happens a bunch in soccer. It's like an art. Like it's an art. As a flopper, I'm pro flopping.
Yeah.
Okay.
It happens in every sport. I think it's just it feels like it's nitpicked more in the NBA for whatever reason, but it is. Like Mahomes is the world's worst flopper. Like that dude.
Oh, here we go.
It's disgusting. It's a disgrace to the game, is what it is.
Here we go. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how two-faced everybody is. Who is the entire world calling the biggest flopper in the NBA right now outside of LeBron James? Who are they saying?
It's
SGA. SGA.
Yeah.
All right. Who is the same people that are calling the biggest flopper in the world? Who do they compare SGA to? Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is the reiteration of Michael Jordan. They're supposed to be old school and we don't flop and nothing. Well, you can't have both. SGA can't be the biggest flopper and also be a stone cold killer like Kobe Bryant. Which one is it? You can't have both. So decide and pick a lane. So I don't buy any of this junk. Everybody talks out of whatever side of their mouth they want to talk out of today.
Yeah, they pick who you like and then build arguments.
Try to justify it.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
I don't know. Y'all lost me at Bop or whoever y'all were talking about back earlier in soccer. I don't know. I thought that was a band. I didn't even know it was a soccer player or a song.
Great song. Yeah,
Listen,
Hanson was the band.
Listen, I'm just bringing you the world's greatest sports news to the table. So if you guys aren't following, I don't know what to tell you. So
I love it.
With the rules of flopping, so back in 2024, the NBA made in-game flopping a permanent technical foul rule, and the opposing team gets a free throw, but the fines barely register for guys making 50, even 40, even $10 million a year. I mean, what does the NBA have to do to fix this said problem that's going on in the game right now?
Ignore it.
Yeah,
Just let them lay there and play
just
around.
don't think you can. Yeah, you can't fix it.
It ain't no
It's been going
problem.
on. Yeah, it's been going on forever.
Let them fly, baby.
Don't flop. Except for SGA, that's got to be stopped.
That's
There
a
you
great
go.
that's a
He's
great
got-
new nickname. That's a great new nickname for LeBron.
Flop.
Flop. That's
No.
flop.
Well, JC,
Flopping enough, dude.
JC, I know your time was like Magic and Larry, but they did call him LaFlop for a specific amount of time.
Who they called who?
They called LeBron LaFlop back in the day.
Oh, they
So, I
still
mean,
do.
Yeah,
That's still a thing.
JC saw the Will Chamberlain 100-point game in person.
Hey, I wish I did. Not on the timeline, but that'd have been pretty cool experience.
he was standing right there next to James Naismith when the game came out.
Yeah, right there. Actually, I didn't want to take credit for it, but I was like, "Hey, James, I think this would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Let's get a peach basket."
Oh man, that's good. Well, speaking, I want to let's make full circle again. But speaking of soccer, the World Cup, the world's largest sports tournament, is literally 6 weeks away, and being played here on U.S. soil. And I promise you, this kind of connects farming, so stay with me. But this year, FIFA mandated that real grass is going to be used for every single World Cup match, no exceptions. 8 U.S. stadiums with artificial turf are currently being converted to grass right now. The issue is that each of these stadiums that are currently getting turf installed, the NFLPA has come out and said that turf is the reason there are so many ACL injuries in the NFL. And so the players are wondering, why won't the NFL do this for its own players? But FIFA can mandate grass, and it happens just like that. Is it money? Is it a lack of caring? Is this going to be a disaster? Because so if we play it back, Copa America grass overlays were a mess, and FIFA swears it's just going to be different this time. So, what's the real issue here? Is it money talking, or do these NFL owners just don't care about the product on the field? Like where is this discussion gonna head?
I gotta let Cheese go on that one. Cheese, our NFL expert.
So, I think it's definitely a money issue because you're gonna have to with turf. You don't have it doesn't require as much upkeep. Soccer has more money than the NFL, I believe. The FIFA does. It's like the highest generating sports in the world. It's a money thing, and the NFL just doesn't want to spend the money on it. That's my opinion. Maybe there's something else going on there, but if it's proven that turf causes more injuries, why in the world do you keep installing turf on your fields? Like the Tennessee Titans are building a brand new stadium, and it's going to have turf in it.
Is it really, Cheese?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Like, what are we doing? You're trying to get your franchise quarterback to tear his ACL? Like, what's going on? I don't think it makes sense. But
Doesn't make a whole lot
so
of sense.
the
Outside
only
of
money.
outside of money or maintenance and playability, which all ties back to money, I would say. So
Yeah.
anyway, no, and we can't. There'll never be a day where we sell any kind of mutiny product on a artificial
On
turf
turf.
field. So it just
Man,
doesn't make sense at
sure.
all.
It's really true. Progress. We're team progress.
Liquid
Absolutely.
Litter is the sponsor of the FIFA World Cup. That's not true, guys. I just made that up. But
we couldn't even
Unofficial.
sponsor FIFA, much less FIFA. You have no idea. No, that's not in the budget, dude.
What's the
I
park
need
there in
litter
Mayfield?
on the FIFA World
Will
Cup.
they let us put it on
We
the
ain't got enough
will they
money to
let us-
sponsor the Kentucky Cup, much less the World Cup.
I bet they'd let us put it on a Kiwanis. They'd let us put it on at Kiwanis.
At Kiwanis, we can do it at Kiwanis for sure.
Well, with the my thing with the NFL is these guys grow up. I don't know the whole turf story within college football, but from what I know, I think a lot of college football teams currently play on grass. A few teams I can name are the Oklahoma Sooners. Does Tennessee, do they play on grass? I'm not for sure.
I don't
Alabama,
think so.
a lot of these top programs are playing on grass, but the NFL just won't. And even though they're putting their own assets, their players at risk, like what's the big holdup here from the NFL or from the NFL owners? Is it just because they don't want to have to manage it because it's going to cost more, despite their players getting hurt, and then they're losing out on star revenue, right? I mean, is this kind of where you feel like this is the disconnect is?
That's it. That's it. They just don't want to manage it.
Okay, just like Cheese doesn't want to manage his own health. Farmer Connection. These guys spent pretty much 5 years and millions of dollars learning to grow grass in a dome, which is crazy. And our growers are doing something way harder every single year with less control. But with that said, let's talk about that spray pass, Patrick. We're currently in the middle of this early growing stage, right? We're in some parts of the country, we're looking past V3 corn already. So planting is starting to wrap up across the country. Post apps are coming in, and this is the pass that kind of protects everything you already spent. So, one, Patrick, on your own farm, have you ever had a spray pass just not work, and what happened in that situation?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago, and I chose the rate, and I didn't have a high enough rate to kill the grass in the cabbage crop, and so I just walked out there early today, and my grass that I sprayed to kill is heading out, which means it wasn't heading out when we sprayed it, so it's continuing to grow, and it's green. So I guess I'm not very good at what I do, but no, that herbicide pass is a really important thing. Here's one thing that we've learned, and so if you're a farmer listening, you're a grower listening, or you're a whatever in the ag industry listening, here's one thing we've learned. And a lot of you all know this, but it's just good to refresh ourselves every year. That we have Roundup Ready corn, or we have Roundup Ready soybeans. You have atrazine. Corn is just naturally resistant to atrazine, right? Soybeans, it would hurt it. But here's one thing we've learned over time is that just because a plant is resistant to a particular herbicide or a fungicide or whatever, it still has to metabolize that chemistry or metabolize that active ingredient. So what does that mean? It means you just got to take it in and recognize what it is and then cycle it out. And it during that process is taking something in and saying, ooh, I don't like that, and that's going to kill me, or, ooh, no, we're okay with that, but let's just get it out of our system and flush it out, and we're just going to move on. That process takes energy. And what we're learning is, in a lot of cases, that we just have to, there's things that we can put in the spray tank, especially during early vegetative growth on corn, that can help us keep the energy going in the right direction, where we don't have that little lull of where it's trying to process it. We make it process it quickly, and then just kind of re-inoculate that plant with good biology. And so for us, we've got a product called Revival, and you guys may have something else that works on your farm. And if you do, that's great. If you've never thought about this before, Revival is something that I do believe fits on every acre across the U.S. with a herbicide pass. And it's got humic acid and fulvic acid, and it's got a PGP, and it's got amino acids, and it's got some things that are specifically designed for at that court use rate to help any plant process, specifically a herbicide, but also other things. And so we have found it to be just consistently all across the U.S. one of the highest ROI products that we have. And we're not a company that jumps out there and says, "Hey, spray this product and you're going to get 7 bushels," because that makes us sound like everyone else. So we just really don't go down that road. But I can tell you, this is kind of one of those products that we've just seen over and over and over. It's up there, man. And so, yeah, it's just something new that we've learned over time, and it's absolutely a no-brainer.
Yeah, we've had some aha moments here in the last. For me, I've had 2 or 3 in the last week that we've been doing this for a while, but still, we learn something all the time.
JC's Wi-Fi is in and out.
Buster.
He's still on dial-up.
JC, we cannot hear you.
It was gold
That
too.
ain't great.
Give me 5
Jason,
minutes and I'll see if I can.
Can you take Wi-Fi off your phone? See if that would work. Like, do you know how to get off the Wi-Fi?
Is it, huh?
Yes.
She said, "Ah."
Fix it.
I think a little bit. Yeah. There we go.
Did that fix it?
Okay. So, yeah. JC, go. You can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I was saying I've had a couple of aha moments this week, just talking about some of what Patrick's been talking about, and man, I don't know that we realize still today how big of an impact that stress is to the crop, and how much it actually costs us on bushels per acre and crop health and things like that. And so stress is just kind of one of those things that keeps popping up. But also, I know Hunter and I had this conversation earlier this week. We've had a lot of guys go to this ModipHy, and they had really been stretching.
Cheese.
Yeah.
What conversation did you have earlier this week?
A really good question. Lots of them.
We had so many conversations.
A lot of conversations.
Unbelievable.
So we were talking about, we have a guy here locally. Anyone that has sprayed Callisto on corn before it's cold and wet knows the results. And we had some Callisto sprayed on some corn here locally before it was cold and wet, and it turned the corn white. But it's going to recover regardless. We do have Revival in the tank on that, so I'm confident that it's going to recover much quicker than had it not had that in there with it. And we were talking about that earlier today. Yeah, you might have some. Either way, you got to, like Rooster said, you're going to have to metabolize that chemistry, and it's still going to have to take it in regardless. But anything we can do to reduce that impact is going to be a win at the end of the day. What is it? It's less than, talking cost-wise, it's less than a bushel, or is a bushel of corn or something like that. That's nothing.
So let's talk about stress within the plant itself. Because maybe that's something there's probably some grower out there that doesn't necessarily know that that's really an issue. Patrick, when it comes to stress in the plant, how does one kind of determine, or how do we see, is stress visible within the plant early? Kind of talk to us about the herbicide.
Yeah, that's the problem is we don't really have a good way of managing it. Like, it's really hard sometimes to just walk out into a field and say that field's stressed until it's really stressed. Obviously pineapple and like corn kind of bottling up because it's really hot outside, and leaves rolling up and trying to protect themselves. Drought stress, all these kind of things. Those are very obvious. But a herbicide stress is something that's been sprayed on a plant that's tolerant to that herbicide. Sometimes that's hard to see, and sometimes those 5, 6, 7, 8 bushel things are really hard to see. So We just don't have now we've got some stuff coming here soon that I can't talk about right now, but we've got some stuff coming to where we're going to try to identify some of those stresses earlier than what we would normally, and we've got a way to manage that I think is going to be pretty unique and pretty special. But as of right now, man, yeah, those are kind of just silent yield killers, which I think is where JC was going with that. Is there's obviously we have the ability and we have the focus on, we know corn needs nitrogen, right? We all know that corn needs phosphorus and corn needs potassium. And so we supplement accordingly based off of our ground and our yield goal. And we kind of know how to do that at least decently well. But when it comes to, if I had to just sit down with a grower and say, so when it comes to managing stresses, what's your strategy? I think a lot of times I'm just going to get a blank look, right? There is no strategy, but I know how my N, my P, my K, I know my planning, I know how the combine runs, but I don't really have a stress management strategy. And what we're learning is a lot of the highest yielding growers that we work with around the country, they think about that. They think about, how do I keep that plant from stressing, and specifically corn, all throughout that plant's life cycle. And they're placing specific products during growth stages of the crop that are yield determining. And so, man, I think it's a big deal. I think we're going to learn more as we go forward. But hey, we don't have it all figured out, and no one else does. But there's definitely something to that.
Can y'all hear me now? Is this any better?
That is a little bit. It's almost like when you start talking, your camera starts to freeze up, which is weird.
Yeah.
But
Not sure what that's about.
it says it's recording at the actual highest quality. So like when I go back, I'll be able to kind of see pretty much everything that was going on. So, but JC,
Okay.
with the can you kind of retouch on kind of these conversations that you were having earlier this week?
Yeah, so I was talking. So, well, part of I heard y'all talking about a little bit of what that was, and some things happened earlier this week that kind of made me think a little differently about some things that we've been doing. We've introduced ModipHy and a lot of sprayer tanks across the country. Y'all are aware of that. But I've gotten several calls where guys are like, "Man, it's hot. My chemistry's hot. I'm seeing some things that I hadn't seen before. My weeds are dying. And in some cases, even my crop response looks a little different." And so it's got me starting to think about stress and how efficient we've been with what we've been doing in the past. And now all of a sudden, these guys are maxing out these rates and we're getting the pH right. And now the chemistry is doing what it's actually supposed to be doing. And so, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. It's good for what we're trying to do as far as the herbicide pass, but we're giving this plant a little bit bigger chemistry load than we have in the past. So I just think there's some stuff that we're going to be able to dial in there. But then also I'm thinking, okay, if that's the response we're getting with herbicides, insecticides, and fungicides by correcting the pH and making sure it's right, then have we been missing the mark a little bit on the nutrition as well? If we're not in the right pH range, we know that. We've seen the charts, where the optimal pH range is for nutrient uptake. And so if we've been missing that with the spray pass, then maybe some of this stuff that we've been doing actually works, and we're actually having to use more rate than what we normally would have to just to try to get the pH in range or try to get the dilution in range. And so I've been thinking about that a little bit. And then we had another call, which I'm going to be super excited when we finally get to roll this out. We've had some conversations about something new we've got coming. But not only, going back to the stress piece, not only inducing stress with our herbicide passes and things like that, but is there a possibility that we might be inducing stress with some of our nutrient passes? Are we overloading some nutrients and causing some imbalance in places that's actually costing us money? And I think over the last few years, the amount of tissue samples that we've pulled, I think we can kind of narrow some of that down. I do think that's a real thing. So yeah, that's a conversation I had. Sorry, to go back to a little bit of that is, when we started having trouble with killing weeds, everybody said, what? Well, we need to use more volume. We got to put more water out there. We got to get better coverage and all that stuff. Well, actually, in a pH situation, if you get a product that needs to be sprayed in a 5, but your water is 8.3 and you add more water, you actually create a bigger problem than you did by bringing it back down. So, anyway, we're learning some things. We're seeing some things. I'm super excited about some of the things that had just popped up across the country for us, like growers calling and sending videos and, hey, I've been doing this, I've been running this program and just had average success with it. And we just changed this. It cost me less than $1 to do it. And we have totally roasting everything. So, I get it. It's not always the modify, but I do think we're heading the right direction on some of that.
Something that I kind of want to bring to the spotlight. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Oklahoma's current wheat disaster at the moment. Are you guys kind of up to speed on what's going on with the wheat in Oklahoma?
Nope. At the moment, nope.
So Oklahoma's 2026 wheat crop right now is projected at 49 million bushels, roughly half of the previous 2 years. Nearly half the state's wheat is rated poor to very poor, and harvest is going to be coming earlier than normal. We've talked with one of our dealers, Colin Black, and everyone is just, you know, maybe down in the dumps is the wrong term here, but it's not, it's not looking bright. Rust, wheat streak, mosaic, barley, yellow dwarf, pretty much anything that you can flag with the wheat this year. The crop's just burning up. And in a state that doesn't have a good track record agronomically, I don't really want to turn this into what are some lessons that these guys can learn, but how have you seen situations similar across the US, and how have those states kind of learned from these similar situations when you have a really bad crop year in one state? How have you seen some of these states kind of turn these disasters into learning lessons, and they've seen success from it later on?
Y'all go ahead.
Well, I go back to when I first started as 12 years ago. So for me, and maybe I'm wrong, but fungicide wasn't just a huge thing, or not everybody did it on corn. And we had a really bad spell of southern rust come in one year here in Western Kentucky. And I'm talking about took corn yields to 10, like just destroyed corn yields. And after that, it was kind of like an aha moment. People were like, you know what? After my corn crop went from 180 bushels to 50 bushels, maybe that fungicide pass isn't such a bad idea. And it's almost become, I don't know, 80%, 90% of farmers in Western Kentucky now spray corn fungicide. Whereas before that event, it wasn't nearly that much. That's just one that comes to mind for me.
For me, I think about anybody ever seen, I know y'all on this have, but for those that are listening, if you stuck around this long, God bless your soul. But there's something called 7 Wonders of the Corn Yield that Dr. Fred Below came out with. And Dr. Below is, I think, just brilliant. And number one on his 300 bushels of corn of the 7 Wonders of the Corn Yield is weather. And that's something that we absolutely cannot control. But the number one factor in that Oklahoma wheat crop is weather. And here's why we believe what we believe, as far as spreading out the spend on the crop and the fertility, is if I take all my fertility budget and I throw it all up front in front of that wheat crop, I've spent it. Okay. And then here's what I can promise you: Mother Nature is going to be harmful to us 2 out of every 10 years, 3 out of every 10 years, whatever that is. But I've spent that fertility budget up front. And so on those years where I don't get the rain I need, or maybe it's too hot, my fertility budget's already spent. Conversely, if I find halfway through the growing season I've saved 40% of my fertility budget, that the yield is not going to be what I thought it was going to be going into it, I can all of a sudden now put that in my pocket. And that's more revenue per acre not more revenue, more profitability per acre for me, because I didn't spend that money. Also, if you just took economics out of it, agronomically, the plant doesn't want it all at one time either. So it wants it spread out over time. And so that's why you'll hear us preach what we preach, not because we're trying to sell you a bunch of liquid fertilizer in season, necessarily. I'd love to, by the way, so I can pay some bills. However, it's not just about that. It's about, first off, it's the right thing to do economically if there is some sort of weather event, and then agronomically, we spread it out over time because that's what the plants told us it wants. And so those are some lessons that we've learned through hardships of weather and things that we can't control. It's also really important to realize that you can do all the super special in furrow 2x2 wide drop blends with all the stuff on, let's use soybeans. And if it doesn't rain when during fruit set, it don't matter. Right. And so it's just important to note those things, man.
Yeah, we definitely don't have a rain replacement. If we could just sell a rain replacement and a sunlight replacement, we wouldn't be talking about ModipHy or anything else. We can hang our hat on those and be done. But hard times, I'm not sure exactly. I've heard a little bit about the Oklahoma situation, but anytime we have a crop fail or something like that, then it typically does teach us something about management. And going back to the stress part there, there's okay, how do we manage the stresses that we can influence? Some of them you just don't have any influence over. So how can we manage what we do have influence over? And then something we just keep kind of going back to over the last year or so is how do we address or how do we try to influence components of yield and whatever crop it may be, whether it's corn, soybeans, wheat, cabbage, tobacco, whatever it may be. How do we be more timely and more efficient and influence those components of yield? So, starting with population and then on corn rolls around, length, all the stuff, and not necessarily preload everything and just hope it works out for the best. I think 10 years from now, we're going to farm a lot differently than we do today, just because we're learning so much about efficiencies and learning so much about what biology does and what certain nutrients do and how they all work together. Um, like Patrick said earlier, we don't have it right, but every day we want to get a little closer to getting it right.
Something because this topic is pretty big on my heart. As an Oklahoma boy, I'm always looking out for the Oklahoma guys. And something that I've heard you guys talk about a lot, that I think a lot of the Great Plains in the Western U.S. farming wise can learn. You guys always bring up the state of Kansas and the lessons that we're learning from the state of Kansas and how these guys are doing things differently. We're looking at a 5-year drought from the state of Kansas and in certain regions. One of our dealers, we'll kind of plug him in here, Scott Stroberg. You guys have kind of learned a lot of these lessons from Scott and just kind of the farming culture within the state of Kansas. How has Kansas kind of shaped your opinion on how to manage drought seasons throughout the whole farming industry? Like, are there things that we can learn from them that we can prepare for in the future?
Yeah, I think for sure. So for me, it's twofold. One, I guess so that's the thing I've learned from them, and I'll mention my buddy James Wingard on here also. I tell everybody he farms some ground in Central Kentucky that a lot of you would put fences around and put cows on. Yet he makes unbelievable yields. But one of the things I learned from him 5 or 6 years ago is the value of just carbon and copious amounts of carbon. I talked with a guy yesterday, really smart farmer. First time I've ever met them. He said, Patrick, I just cannot get humics and sugar to work for me. It just doesn't work on my farm. I said, okay, I understand. It's not flat black ground. I said, talk to me about the product and rates. He said, well, I'm putting 1 quart per acre of humic in my 2x2 and 1 quart of sugar. And I said, okay, where else are you putting it? He said, that's it. No. So I don't want to offend you, but you've actually never tried humic before. My point being this: if you're going to run a court, you may as well not run any. And I promise I'm getting back to your question, easy. But humic and these carbon sources, for whatever reason, are fortifying that crop during heat stresses on ground that's like Kansas, Oklahoma, more drought prone. Um, I'm not going to call it more dead ground because that's not fair to it, but it not flat black dirt that has ample moisture, maybe in Champaign, Illinois, right? Um, when we introduce, whether it's dry humic, liquid humic, in the right volumes from the right sources into these places, for a 3-year period in a row, we see soil structure changes. We see, I can show you, I can drive down. I'll speak to James again. I don't think he'd mind. Sorry if you do, James. I didn't ask your permission. But during the summertime, when there's a heat stress event, he's got ground that's very drought prone and pretty thin. I'll drive by and I can tell which fields are his versus his neighbors because his neighbors are pineappled up and curled up, hiding from the sun, and his plants are strutting out like this. And a lot of the difference is the amount of humic that he's put on his ground over time. And it's just so that's the thing I've learned the most about protecting a crop. Then also, JC, we know about potassium and what that can do to help cool the plant down and some different things like that. But for me, we just in this country are not using enough. And if you're in Champaign, Illinois, fast forward past this part, y'all are cheating anyway. But we are not using enough humic in the right places over a long enough period of time to realize the results of that carbon and how it will protect the crop. Now, let me say this to finish my thought. You can put all the humic out you want. And if it doesn't rain for 9 straight weeks and it's 95 degrees, it won't matter. All it will do will hold you on for another 7 days, 10 days versus your neighbors, and you'll see that. But by day 14, if you ain't caught that inch of rain, you're going to be saying, well, where's my humic?
It's a giant buffer. It gives us a lot of buffer in a lot of different ways. It gives us a buffer for moisture. It gives us a buffer for salt. It gives us a buffer for nutrient availability. Just the capacity to do what it does. Just it takes the I don't know. It makes us look a little smarter than what we are in a lot of cases, because it does offer so many different capacities in a lot of those ways, and so tougher ground. It does a lot of good things.
It responds more. It seems to respond more on those tougher acres for sure.
And we've got the guys here that you see the benefits of it. A lot of times it's not something that you're going to see. Yeah, that gives me 5 bushels year one, the first time I use it.
No,
The guys that we have that have been staying consistent with it, using carbon sources for 3, 4, 5 years in a row now, their yields just keep doing this. And they keep going up, and they're starting to reap the benefits of building up their soils, building up their carbon. And it's just a special thing.
I think it's such a great point, Cheese. Like, think about, can you name someone that we know anywhere in the country that's been using 2 to 3 gallons per acre per year for 3 years, or putting out 20 or 30 pounds, that's been doing it for real, that has stopped doing it?
They ain't stopping.
They ain't stopping. Well,
Nope.
they've got a checkbook and they're trying to make money farming just like everyone else. Why are they not stopping? Well, the reason why is what we're learning is they've discovered something that the rest of us didn't know. And they discovered it 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. And so if you're someone, again, if you are this far in, I love you. I don't know why you're still here. You probably got other things to do. But if you're someone that's never ran humic before and you got thin acres and you're not on flat black ground, it's something you really need to take a look at. And don't run 1 gallon in furrow and then run a side by side. I can promise you're not going to see a difference. If you do, you may see a little bit. This is a soil amendment play over a long period of time, and you have to commit to it. And I bet you money, if you'll commit to it at the rates we tell you, you'll begin to change farms.
Absolutely.
Yep. And it's not always an add-on, and that's
There you
that's
go.
what I want people to understand. It's not always an add-on. Like, a lot of times what people see is okay, here's my efficiencies are starting to come around. Just like the ModipHy thing we talked about, how do we get more efficient? Well, humic kind of allows us to be more efficient. And so now I may not be having to put as much nitrogen. I may not have to put as much phosphorus. I may not have to do as many of those different things and then I can take those dollars saved and reinvest them. And I say invest because that's for sure what it is. It's that piece of the puzzle is an investment for the farm, and it's an investment for the future of the farm. And again, it's not one of those things that we always realize immediately. If it does help address some things that are limiting, you can see some benefit from it. But long term, it changes things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fellas, as we start to wrap up, JC, you kind of took the wind out of our sails last time with this with your first pick, but I'm going to for this week's first round pick, I'm gonna pass the first pick up, first overall pick to Patrick. Patrick, what is your first round pick for the week? It can be farming, it can be food, it can be music. What is Patrick's first round pick for this week?
You can't use JC's again. That's unfair.
No, you can't. Yeah.
Explain first round pick to me. All I remember is JC said Jesus, and then I was frozen from then on out.
This segment.
Well, let's just go ahead and assume that Jesus is always going to be first round pick. So from here on out, we know Jesus is first.
He's the condition.
And there you go. And then we can come in. We can come in behind that.
There you go. Okay, your first round pick is anything you're driving with lately, anything in your life. Maybe it's a place you've traveled to. Maybe it's, a piece of food that you had that you got to try for the first time. Maybe it's a piece of music that you heard or a sports moment. Talk to me about your first round pick in life.
Whoa, boy.
I'm going to put you on the clock.
Yeah, bro. No, this is fine. So just on so I'll say on my family's farm, we're trying to learn how to raise a bunch of crops we've never raised before. And so I've been challenged recently to try to understand how to raise those, and I have no idea what I'm doing at all. So that's been fun, but peppers and 12 different types of peppers, and when do you plant a pepper, and how do you harvest a pepper, and how do you fertilize a pepper, and yeah, all of those.
How do you
things are
pickle a
cool.
pepper?
So, how do you pickle a pepper? Nobody knows. Will I even get paid for said peppers? Probably not. But here we are amongst all those things. So no, it's been fun, man. It's been a unique challenge. It's challenged me agronomically. I always like a challenge, and it's helping me in some other stuff to kind of see a lot of the products that we have move the needle in the tissue, and to watch it on my own stuff that I'm kind of subject to paying the bills towards has been pretty cool. So just kind of validating that stuff that we've got on my own farm has been cool, man.
JC, you are second pick for this week. What is your first round pick
for this week? For this week, mine's summertime. I'm seeing my kids start to glow. Like, hey, we're getting out of school. We're playing baseball. We're playing volleyball. We got soccer going on. We got all this stuff. They're looking forward to going to the lake and spending some time there. The crops are beginning to be in full swing, and so we're seeing some fruits of our labor and that side of it. And man, it's just you see people's attitude starts to change when the weather starts to change, and so that's got to be my first round pick this week or this month, however often we do this thing. So yeah, I've got to go with summertime for now.
Easy, cue in right there. Sweet summertime, sweet summertime.
Cheese, you're the third pick. You are the third pick this week.
Okay.
What is your first round pick?
It's the TRS slider.
What?
Listen, the TRS slider. If you
What
guys,
does that mean?
He's got a new gimmick. He's golfing. He's trying to.
I'm really good at golf, and listen, this isn't a good representation of it. But for you guys that got that over the top, I got a bad habit coming over the top. The TRS slider will solve it. I shot 50 on the front nine last weekend. In retrospect, I used to shoot 70, so we're getting there.
Hey, that's quite the improvement.
Yeah, but 40-handed improvement.
I like that, Cheese. 50 on the front nine is a massive improvement, man. Ain't bad.
I wore the TRS slider the whole time.
He even tried it putting.
It took too long to take on and off.
I don't know if that thing's designed to play around in, or I think that's more of a range thing, Cheese.
It's supposed to be, but your boy's wearing it. Next time we golf together, don't say anything about it. I'm not good enough for you to try and call me out, so I'm wearing this.
I'm not good enough to say anyone to anybody, so I'm not saying anything to nobody, man. You're straight with me, but I just
You're welcome.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Hey, TRS sliders. No free shout outs.
Yeah.
I said my suck.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Your sales just doubled. Yes.
Well, that's all the time. That's all the time we have on this episode of Three Beans and Pod. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you do podcasts. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.